Greetings and welcome, I'm Ash, and today I think you should try Total War Warhammer 2, a supremely satisfying strategy game where pirates are both zombies and vampires, where barnyard animals harbor a seething hatred for humanity, a game where the French are hopelessly addicted to sipping from the Holy Grail, and a game where interdimensional demons attacking your village is just another Tuesday. So if you would like to experience an RTS game whose scope is without equal, allow me to show you why you should give Total War Warhammer 2 a try. First things first, given that Warhammer 3 has literally just arrived, you might be wondering why in the world I'm recommending you the older game in the series. Well, the answer is really quite simple. While Warhammer 3 still has a fair few issues to work through before it can be considered truly finished, Warhammer 2 has already gone through that phase and is currently both packed with content and polished to a mirror sheen thanks to many years of updates. Best of all, thanks to Warhammer 3's upcoming Immortal Empires campaign map that will combine all three games into a single gigantic world, grabbing Warhammer 2 right now is neither a waste of money nor time. All of that content will eventually be ported over to Warhammer 3 as a part of a free update if you own both games, but until that happens, you'll have plenty of time to sink into Warhammer 2 and experience one of the finest RTS games around. The reason I have so much praise for Warhammer 2 is because it is a strategy game with such an impressive amount of unique races, factions, and starting locations that no two playthroughs ever feel alike. One campaign, you could be playing as a megalomaniacal wizard rat throwing actual nukes at peasants near the sunlit coast of Tylea, while in the other, you could be trudging through the endless snowy wastelands of Naggaroth with an army of cows with some serious anger management issues. This sort of diversity stretches to the sub-factions as well, because many of them play completely differently despite having access to a similar roster. So in the case of our ratty friends the Skaven, you have Ickettclaw, who is the aforementioned tech wizard. You then have Lord Skrolk, who is riddled with so much plague that it has given him superpowers. You also have Deathmaster Snitch, who is a ninja rat who will kill your heroes before you even realize they're in combat. You also have Fraught the Unclean, who creates horrifically mutated beasts down in the appropriately titled Hell Pit, and the list goes on for a while. That isn't even all of them. Even though all of these sub-factions share most of the same units, the way they tend to utilize them is drastically different thanks to a mixture of exclusive buffs and character-specific mechanics. So while everyone can use Deathmaster Snitch's various sneaky stabby rats, his special enhancements are the thing that makes these units rise from being mere support to the backbone of your army. Needless to say, this makes for some highly replayable campaigns. When it comes to the actual gameplay, Warhammer 2 is separated into two parts. The Grand Campaign, where you get to do all of your empire building and army management, as well as the real-time battles where you get to squander all of that away because you're too busy zooming in to watch all of your little dudes fight it out. Out of the two, the battles are by far the most exciting part, though the campaign shouldn't be underestimated since growing your empire and bullying other factions is still good fun. The way the campaign map works is rather similar to some of the other turn-based grand strategy games out there. You use your armies to conquer cities, use your cities to produce resources and gold to keep your economy running, use your resources to construct new buildings that let you recruit bigger and tougher units, and then you use those units to conquer even more cities. It is very simple. Managing all of this is quite the balancing act since everything is interconnected, moves slowly, and is open to disruption from your enemies. But then again, that is also the charm of it since a little bit of hardship goes a long way towards making you truly invested in your fledgling little empire. So as soon as you feel comfortable with the mechanics, I would highly recommend cranking up the campaign difficulty and preparing yourself to fight tooth and nail for every inch of land. It will be a brutal struggle, there is no denying that, but winning when the odds are stacked against you just feels so much sweeter. While I do enjoy it for its own merits, let us be perfectly honest here. Total War Warhammer 2 does not have two instances of the word war in it for no reason. The campaign is intentionally simple, and mostly here to facilitate interesting battles, as well as to give you a few moments to cool off before throwing you into the next one. A good thing too, because the RTS style battles in Warhammer 2 are a pure joy to mess around with. Each skirmish can consist of thousands upon thousands of units clashing with swords, fangs, hooves, and even random bits of pavement. Yet, thanks to the controls that let you order regiments instead of single units, managing everything is surprisingly easy. So rather than have you struggle against the UI, what Warhammer 2 really wants you to do is dive in deep and experiment with all sorts of army compositions and strategies. This is also where the aforementioned diversity comes into play, since no two factions are even remotely alike. They all control the same and feature the same general unit types, so it is easy to swap between them, yet each one has unique strengths and weaknesses that can completely change how you approach your battles. For example, Skaven have worthless infantry, so they rely on range firepower and superior technology to dominate their opponents, while the Knights of Bretonnia solve the same problem by going all out on brutal cavalry charges and hit-and-run tactics. Same problem, different solutions. Regardless of what faction or playstyle you decide to go for, the important thing to note here is that all of them, and I really do mean every single one of them, are well made and really fun to play. Despite pouring nearly 500 hours into Warhammer 2 over the past few years, there's not a single faction that I even remotely hate. All of them have something special about them that makes them exciting to play, so even if you choose one that is your polar opposite in terms of playstyle, odds are you'll find some units or some strategies that still make you happy. Now, observing these battles is also just as much fun as fighting them due to Warhammer 2 making excellent use of the insanely deep and rich Warhammer world. The unit models in particular are astonishingly well made, to the point where some of them have better detailing and animations than even characters in major open world games, and there is hundreds of them in Warhammer 2's regiments. So when you combine that kind of visual fidelity with a world where a knight's charge can fling a horde of skeletons into the stratosphere, you've got yourself a recipe for quite the spectacle. In all honesty, the only thing I dislike about Warhammer 2's battles are the siege maps, since pretty much all of them feature the exact same layout and require the exact same strategy to crack. It doesn't matter if we're talking about a backwater hamlet or an impregnable dwarf fortress. The vast majority of the siege maps are just a single wall with a couple of towers. The sieges are not so unbearable that they ruin what makes Warhammer 2 so entertaining, but it is definitely one of those things that just kinda starts to wear on you with time. So should you decide to give Warhammer 2 a try, you might want to look up a mod or two to help you sort all this nonsense out. Speaking of which, the outstandingly active modding community is another one of the big reasons why I love Warhammer 2 so much. It doesn't matter if we're talking about a complex thing like adding new factions or units, or even something as simple as tweaking a couple of numbers on already existing ones. The Warhammer 2 Steam Workshop just has it all. So even though I would recommend starting off with the plain old vanilla Warhammer 2, the Steam Workshop is definitely worth checking out once you get a little bit of experience under your belt. After all, adding a few mods, or even a few hundred, is a great way to spice up an old campaign, or even just add more toys to Warhammer 2's already dangerously overflowing toy box. The final thing worth talking about is the DLC policy, and this one is kinda scary. If you've ever opened the Steam page for Warhammer 2, chances are you've ended up being shocked by just how much DLC there is for it, as well as how much it all costs. While it might look scary, the good news is that this is not a paradox situation where the DLC is basically mandatory for fleshing out the game. Instead, the really important changes and faction reworks have already been brought in through free updates. The DLC is there purely to give you new things to play around with once you get tired of the same old factions. Best of all, even if you don't buy the DLC, all of those extra factions and races will still be around on the campaign map for you to fight or even befriend. But even if you simply stick with the base version of Warhammer 2 along with the free DLCs, you will have more than enough content to keep you busy for a very, very long time. The DLCs are well worth the trouble though, so if you find yourself liking what some of them offer, I would highly recommend grabbing them during one of the frequent sales. This goes doubly so for the original Total War Warhammer, because not only does it act like a hefty expansion for Warhammer 2, but you can also get it fairly cheap these days. Having it on your account gives you access to a bunch of new races, factions, and units to experiment with in Warhammer 2, and, most importantly of all, it also lets you access the absolutely massive Mortal Empire's combined campaign map. To me, the Mortal Empire sandbox is by far the most enjoyable way to play Warhammer 2, since the map is so ginormous that you can realistically not even see a quarter of it in a single playthrough. Even if you end up playing the same faction, simply changing the starting location to somewhere halfway across the world can have a significant impact on how your campaign progresses and what sort of units are going to be most useful. So if you enjoy experimenting with different strategies and factions, the Mortal Empire's campaign map is a great place to do so, though I do have to warn you, it will mess up your sleep schedule. While its sequel will very likely eclipse it in a couple of years, right now Total War Warhammer 2 is an immensely ambitious and highly enjoyable strategy game, as well as quite possibly the very best Warhammer game ever made, and I am not saying that lightly. It is also a game that will last you a very, very long time, because between all of the base content, DLCs, and the thousands of mods, Total War Warhammer 2 is absolutely brimming with things to do. It frequently goes on sale as well, so even if the current price tag looks a little bit intimidating, just wait a while and you'll be able to grab it on the cheap. So, if you're in the mood for a strategy game that is just as much fun to play as it is to watch, I would heartily recommend you give Total War Warhammer 2 a try. Thank you guys for watching, and if you enjoyed this, or even if you didn't, please do let me know. If you would like to see more, make sure to subscribe, hit the stupid bell, pet your griffin, and do whatever other nonsense you gotta do these days. Thank you again for watching, and I do hope to see you soon. Bye bye!